is the Friday news dump where me, Bobby Gomes, and Tambo go through all the news from the injury reports. We tell you what it means, and then we tell you who to pivot to, or should you play him or not. Pretty simple stuff. Just got some news here for the Niners, and we'll get to Kittle and Trey Lance too, but Elijah Mitchell no longer on the injury report. So for those of you that were expecting to roll Sermon out there, this is going to make that backfield a little bit tricky. So, Bobby Gomes, wonderful to see you. Let's start with Tambo, though, who was gone last week. He's back this week. It's wonderful to see you. Tambo, what the hell is going on?
I'm actually a little under the weather this week, but I couldn't miss another show. I'm feeling it. I'm happy to be back. This is the best week to be back for because we got a lot of news here to go through. So I'm excited. And it's week 5. We're still got plenty of time left to get all the money. So I'm happy to be here with you, Holden.
Do you have the COVID?
I do not have the COVID.
Good.
No fever. And if anyone asks when I cough if I got the COVID, I just challenge them to a push-up contest because I don't think you can do push-ups if you got the COVID.
I did push-ups when I had the COVID.
Okay, there you go.
But I'm a badass, Tambo.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was quite condescending. Bobby Gomes, hello, my friend. We got the free roll going on in the coordinators right now, and there's just a free-for-all. I mean, we got people fighting. There's threats. There's guidelines. There's rules. It's just been a very tension-filled afternoon in the Run Pure Sports coordinators chat.
Yeah, it's been pretty. So I hopped in. I saw like AP scolding us, telling us not to kind of go in on each other, which he has a point. We're all working together. We're all colleagues, so we got to be careful. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. There should be some chirping. Could have a little chirping, but you know, we got this free roll, so it's going to get competitive.
I have to beat Uncle T. It's the only guy.
Yeah.
I could finish 39th as long as he's 40th. I'm fine. So
Yeah,
that's the big one this week. Me versus Uncle T. I think Susie's going against Title. Like there was some fighting over there. Stevie Boynton's going against poor Title. He didn't even do anything. Like people are upset at him. It's a mess.
I didn't know. It's actually I didn't even know like that all these little like side bets were going on and stuff like that. It was interesting when I was reading through it.
Tambo, who do you want to challenge, man? I feel like you need to go ahead and challenge another coordinator.
Big T. I'm going against Big T this week.
Oh, did you already bet him, or he's just
but I'm going to Triple T versus Big T. We'll
All
put
right.
something on it for sure, just to make it a little more exciting. I don't know if he's going to be in it though, right? He might be the boss man, and he's not in that one.
He's in it because I had to figure out. I couldn't enter it for some reason. I was like, why can't I enter this? And he was able to get in, so.
I always say it, Bobby
him.
Big Wheels, man. You're just too big for that event.
Couldn't get in?
How could they put you in it?
I don't know. I just didn't understand like why I couldn't get in. Like my phone was.
That makes a whole lot more sense now.
I was having issues getting in for whatever reason.
Who do you want to challenge, Bobby Gomes? Anybody?
I'm challenging the field. I'm trying my best to win the thing. 2,500 up top. I see
the difference, Holden. I had pure conviction.
I know.
I was ready with the name.
I know.
Lock it in.
Yeah.
This guy sitting here can't even pick a name.
I'd say Big T, but he owes me $100 for a Devontae Smith bet last week. I don't know where it is.
I don't know if he's got it.
Hit my account yet.
He's lucky.
I don't know if he's got it.
He's lucky he wins so much in DFS and betting because the side bets with us just does not go well for the man. There's no doubt.
No, he got hot with Bryson at the end. He got hot with Bryson
hot.
at the end with me and Snyder.
All right. So he took money from you and Snyder.
He got some of my dough.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. You just don't have a natural rival, you know? I feel like you could go after G Risen. That would be a good one.
You got to figure like a lot of these guys are going to play Derrick Henry, right? Like I think Derrick Henry is going to be above 60% in that tournament. So interesting to kind of, I'm more of a tournament guy. So I don't always play the chalk, but he's definitely a very big decision point on the slate.
Yeah, it's only 40 people in there. So are you playing your cat? You don't even play cash. I don't play cash anymore either. So.
I don't play cash, but I play chalk. I try to play chalk occasionally if I think it's good chalk.
Yeah. I do play a little bit of cash still, but not nearly as much as
I consider like a 40-man a cash game.
Okay. Then a cash game. Unless you want. All right. Very good. We got it. We got Tambo up against Big T. I'm taking on Big T's uncle. And we'll see who Susie wants to take on. I feel like she does need to take on Title. But let's get into this news. Let's start dumping some news on the people here. A lot going on with the Niners here. I just told you about Elijah Mitchell. Trey Lance is starting. George Kittle is now doubtful, which kind of makes me like Brandon Ayuk a little bit. Tambo, let's talk about this. Start with the backfield with Elijah Mitchell now. Can we trust him or Sermon? And then get to Lance and Kittle.
Well, all of those names mixed together are a problem because they all play for the same team, which is the San Francisco 49ers, Kyle Shanahan offense. The situation's always a little bit murky. And then when you get injuries, it just gets even worse. So one thing I will say, though, I don't know if sometimes I look for this. We know nothing going in. We try and put together as much as we can. We take the news, which we do know the news, but I mean, as far as what he's actually going to do, and I'm talking about Kyle Shanahan with this offense, makes it a little bit challenging. So one thing I try to take away is little tidbits you can find along the way. And I'm not sure if you guys will remember, but it was either week 1 or I think it was week 2 after week 1 happened where everyone played Mostert. And then it was the Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel game in week 1. That the fact was Louisiana, where Elijah Mitchell goes to school, had actually sent like an undercover agent or somebody out to study the Kyle Shanahan offense to bring it back to Louisiana, which made Elijah Mitchell more comfortable with it and made Kyle Shanahan, therefore, more comfortable with him. And so I think that's kind of interesting, to be honest. I look for these things when you're just trying to look for angles. Not saying I'm going to go crazy with them this week, but I do think when people are going to be looking to Ross Dwelly with Kittle out, people are going to be looking to Trey Lance just for the obvious spot that he's in, right? But based on he's going to play for Garoppolo. He's pretty cheap. He's got upside. He's got legs. He's got things that he can use to score DK points for you. That I think one of the interesting ways to go would be to take a chance on one of their running backs. And I do like your Ayuk call as well. If you're going to run some stacks there or run it back, I think you could definitely use Ayuk in your Kyler stacks because he's cheap enough.
Bobby, what do you want to do with Trey Lance this week? Is he going to be in your pool?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this San Fran team just in general, just because like we've seen Stafford struggle versus Arizona Cardinals defense. In terms of the running backs, like even if Mitchell plays, like it's just I'm not playing Sermon. If they're playing from behind, Sermon's in trouble. They're not using him in pass blocking situations, and that's kind of what he ran really bad in the second half last week because of it. It would bump up Ayuk and Deebo for me if Kittle sits, and that's pretty much it. But I don't know how many, like I said, I don't know how many 49ers I'm going to have.
Yeah, it doesn't look like
Deebo is expensive too, man.
Yeah,
like,
Deebo's
I know that's
price
sometimes
is
good.
jacked
You
up.
can pay up for probability. Like you won't have the ownership to come with it, but that is a lot to pay with that price tag on Ayuk. And Ayuk only takes one play. So I really like that call that Holden had at the start.
So
I
does
just, like I
Deebo,
said, I'm
though.
happy to take some chances with Mitchell.
Yeah, I always like Ayuk, but I'm just doesn't Deebo like lead the league in receiving yards? He's 7-1 on DraftKings, and I just think if we took Deebo Samuel out and said, okay, it's player here, you don't know the name of this guy, but he leads the league in receiving. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, he's got Williams, McLaurin, Moore, Hopkins, Jefferson, and that. He's the 7th highest price receiver that can just blow up. But his yards last week came from that big breakdown where Trey Lance just threw it up to him. There's nobody within 20 yards of Deebo Samuel.
And it was very underthrown too, by the way.
Someone's taking a shot on Trey Lance. We'll see if it works out this week. Hit the like button. You get a shot. It's this thing. And then there's that little red button in the bottom right-hand corner with a sideways triangle. It's subscribe. We'd love it if you signed up for Run Pure Sports and our YouTube page. Do the bet side too, Run Pure Bet. Subscribe to them. And last but not least, RPS Heater 25% off your first payment of a monthly plan. All right, guys, next one. Boy, there's a lot of news. Christian McCaffrey, doubtful. Bobby, I don't think anybody really thought he was going to play, even though he practiced. He'll be back next week. So everybody's saying he's going to be back next week. But what about Chuba Hubbard?
Yeah, I don't mind Hubbard. I think he's a good play. There are other guys that I like, but I think in GPPs, Hubbard could make sense. In that price range, like I said, there's other guys that I like, but yeah, I don't know. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. I think you go back to DJ Moore. His price has kind of gone up a little bit, but Darnold loves to target him, so don't mind him. He's obviously seeing a usage bump, but I think he'll still see significant usage even when McCaffrey comes back. Don't hate the Hubbard call. Like I said, I think he's fine in GPPs as a pivot.
Does this have any other ramifications for one more week, Tambo? Because this is the number one guy in that offense. They've been okay. They've been okay without him. When he comes back, it's a very dynamic offense. But Talk to me about Chuba. And then the other guy I need to ask you about Robbie Anderson. They went out of their way to target him like 11 times last week, and he's still not having games. So Hubbard and Robbie.
I'll save the time on Hubbard and move right to Robbie Anderson. You speak my language right there, because I really like that play. We talk about flop lag all the time. I liked them last week. The shows I was on with JT Hayes, we had talked about him. There was already, I know it's coach speak, but it was also quarterback speak in talking about, listen, I just got to get things right with my guy, with Robbie, obviously the previous connection in New York with the Jets. So I'm happy to go back there. I do think it's interesting. And if you look back at last week, not saying this guy's even close, Robbie Anderson versus Tyreek Hill, but if you look at just skill set and opportunity and what Tyreek just did to the Eagles, why not go back to a guy like Robbie? He's fast. He can get open. We just didn't get to see it. And I think that will deter a lot of people. Not to mention DJ Moore was already popular before the CMC news. Now he basically becomes, a cash game play. He's going to be heavily owned in tournaments, and for good reason. Look, he's 24 years old, young guy doing his thing. People are already anointing him as the next superstar of the league based on what he's been doing. But I have a hard time in tournaments eating that. I talk about it every week. It's just one of my rules. These high-owned, high-priced wide receivers, there's so many options across not just that team, but across the entire slate. This week down to a 12-game slate, we should note, with the London game in the morning, but there's 24 teams that you're picking across. I don't think you necessarily need them, and I really like Robbie Anderson this week. Definitely going back to him for sure.
Really? Okay. Very good. Hope we don't get, well, I hope in the free roll you play him and he doesn't get anything, but everywhere else, hopefully he gets points. So Tambo, we already talked a little bit of running back situation in San Francisco. We got a big one in Minnesota, and Dalvin is questionable again, taking on the Lions, and he's going to be a game time decision. And he didn't practice all week again. 2 weeks ago it happened. Last week he got out there a little bit. Just the way I'm handling this, I think Madison's got to be in my player pool right now. I get it. There's some injuries on the offensive line there, but we've seen Madison be so productive with Dalvin Cook out. So just as of now, if you're building pools, if I'm building my pool, I am going under the assumption that it's Madison. How would you handle this situation?
Actually, yeah, I get what you're saying, and I'm not against it, but I do really like Dalvin Cook. I want to wait on the news and see. Still played, I think, over half the snaps last week, if I recall correctly. Got 6 targets. Looked pretty good. So, as far as opportunity, did not look good as far as actual results go. But that's just one thing. It's odd this year. I mentioned this last night on the show at Mail Media Network with JT Hayes. These coaches just don't seem to care. We've got these longer season, I should say. And they're just, forget it. If he's injured, we're not going to rest him or whatever. If he's willing to go and we can play him, we're rolling him out. And the thing about it is the opportunity that he gets, the matchup against the Lions, 9-point favorite at home, 49-point total at, really, we know the optimizers, the projections, nothing likes him. So you are taking a risk, but that's where you don't need to be heavy on him. You can play 15% and do it. And Holden, if you want to play it safe, I think you could even put Madison in your player pool as well. Make a rule of at most one and make sure you get some of both, because it makes sense from the game script perspective. We would expect Minnesota to be up. You're not necessarily leveraging by going, if you can go to the pass game too is another way to go about it. But I do think it makes sense for that, and I do like both of them. I do still like Cook, though, quite a bit if he plays, because last week I believe it was 4% ownership in the $20 Millionaire Maker. And if you're trying to win something like that or anything lower dollar, larger field size, you certainly want to take chances on a back on a team like that all they do is run. He's still got 6 targets and 9 attempts last week. I think there's definitely still an opportunity there for Dalvin Cook.
Okay. Bobby Gomes, how you want to handle this Minnesota rushing situation?
Yeah, I think Tambo gave a great breakdown at Cook. If Cook were to be ruled out, I think Madison becomes immediate chalk. I think he's a better play than Fournette, in my opinion, at that point. But yeah, that's kind of how I would handle it in tournaments. If they both play, like, get exposure to both of them. I also think Justin Jefferson's in play in that game. That's kind of how I'd target the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, let's just go to the Washington football team then. Antonio Gibson, he has that, stress fracture in his shin, which Dr. David Chow, longtime Chargers team doctor, do some stuff with him. And I think he's been right like 28 out of 29 times on these injuries. He's just remarkable. He's like, don't worry about him this week. He'll be fine, but as the season goes on, we could have a problem with Antonio Gibson. But this is DFS. We only care about this week. Talk to me about Gibson, Bobby Gomes, and then Curtis Samuel is questionable. I mean, he's got a groin. They said they ran him out there more than they wanted to last week. He's on the right path, but he's still going to be on a pitch count. Start with Gibson, then give me some love on, or give me some information on Samuel, who is dirt cheap.
Yeah. So Samuel, I'll start with Gibson. Gibson for me, like I'm versus the Saints defense with the shin, like he's someone that's not hitting my player pool. I would have interest in McKissick at 5K. I don't mind him. We've seen him have a big game last week. He fits the format, PPR. Had a great touchdown last week on a screen on a broken play. I like McKissick. I don't mind him at 5K. And I think at 5K, due to like how optimal construction's going, he could be a leverage play in larger field stuff. McKissick. And in terms of Samuel in this Washington passing offense, I think Samuel's going to be a cornerstone and chalk in cash games for a lot of the cash game players at 3K. He's seen 30% of the snaps last week. That's only going to tick up this week, being his second week back. I like Samuel a ton at 3K. I think he's a good play. And Ricky Seals-Jones is another guy with this Washington team at 2,500 that I think is going to get usage in the passing game versus Saints defense. So I think Ricky Seals-Jones is also in play for cash.
What do you got here, Tambo? Anything with Gibson and Curtis Samuel? Because again, I was, I actually hit Hoop up last night. I was like, Hoop, just keep an eye on the situation, because him and Mangone told me, listen, cash 3K, just throw him in there. It's not going to cost you anything. So, I mean, they might be right in cash. I just don't want to take a shot on that.
They're definitely right in cash.
3K,
yeah, in cash, it's pretty easy. I actually think in
points.
cash, you could even go with Samuel and Ricky Seals-Jones. The combined combination costs 5,500. You get two chances out of four guys there, because we don't know. The running game is just not something I was targeting anyway, regardless of injury, which is one thing just to note. Just because someone's out, it's not always a plug and play. Like if it's a bad matchup, yes, McKissick could make sense, but McKissick's not 3,000. We don't even have that floor on running backs anymore like we used to a couple of years ago. So it's not just automatic to me. I like it in some tournament stacks or something. I can get there with Bobby Gomes. I'm just saying, in general, that's not something I was looking at much anyway. And then the shin, the matchup, all these factors, just not something I'm high on. I do think both of those guys are viable in cash, but I don't see a big ceiling out of them. The Taylor Heineke story so far has been fun, but I don't think, who knows? The bigger thing for me is if the Washington defense can actually wake up. We expected a lot more from them. I think that's kind of the combination to put it all together, because that will change the game script in a hurry if that's the case. If that's not the case, then yes, they'll be coming back from behind, and that's why these guys want to use Samuel at the same price as last week in cash. Seals-Jones, 2,500 or whatever he is, makes some sense. And now with the previous conversation we had on Kittle, with Ross Dwelly at 2,700, maybe it disperses some of that ownership there that was going to be on Seals-Jones, and now you can get an opportunity with a guy like him if you don't quite trust. Like, that's the thing. If you don't quite trust Curtis Samuel, or you're not playing them both in cash or something like that, you can definitely go to Ricky Seals-Jones, because it's a onesie position, really cheap, 2,500. All he has to do is catch a touchdown, or 3 catches, 40 and a touchdown, maybe something like that. And that can be enough to open up your lineup to do whatever else you want with all these other game stacks or stacks that you're doing, etc., across the board.
That is quite the call there. A little Ricky Seals-Jones action. I like it. Hey, right now we got about 55 watching. Everybody really picks up the viewership as the night goes on, and then in tomorrow. So if you're watching this on tape, even hit the like button for us, thumbs up, and also subscribe with the little red button down in the right-hand corner. And again, we got NBA starting up very soon. NBA is about a week and a half away, guys. Is that where we are on the NBA? My goodness. So I will say this. We're great at so many sports. Seriously, like NFL, the coordinators. If you looked at our coordinator cores last week, tons of Chiefs, tons of Eagles, that game. So it's a normal, no. Our coordinators are all over it. It was a big week for a lot of guys. We had a 200K winner and a 300K winner as a member, our members, because members never win, of course. As much as I love our baseball and our NFL content, I honest to God believe that the best sport, and let's not take away from anything else, the NBA. Like, I was more of a newbie and I crushed last year because Big T, JSU. I'm going to leave everybody else out, Bobby Gomes, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But the big dogs and you and everybody, the NBA content here, I will put up against anybody in the world.
Oh yeah,
RPSC
AP, Hoop, Mangone, all these guys, Title. Yeah. Everybody just absolutely destroys NBA. And the joke already in the whole DFS industry is that nobody loses at NBA. But I'll tell you what, our joke at Run Pure Sports with hashtag members never win, it's the I mean, coordinators sometimes win. We win lots, but man, the members always win in NBA, especially. It's crazy in NBA time. I love NBA season. I can't wait to get it started. It's not my favorite or best or sport or anything like that, but I just can't wait for it because it's every day. The shows are incredible right up to lock. You need to be there for the news, and it just makes it so much easier. There's so much money to be won, and our members are always winning in NBA. It's incredible. Every day on the show, there's 5 to 6 screenshots posted out there. It's not like, oh, a couple guys did this. It's everybody's crushing with the course.
RPS Heater 25% off your first monthly payment. We'll still do the free show in the afternoon, but you get the really, real big information with me and JSU leading up to lock. And we'll have a lot of other guys shifting in and out too. Let's get back to these games though. We talked about Dalvin Cook and how he might not play this week. Well, on the other side of the ball is TJ Hawkinson. He is questionable. And I thought, during the week it was like, okay, he's going to play. Well, now it's not so sure. And he's their top receiving threat. I don't care what anybody says, or Quintez Cephas. No, it's Hawkinson. He's been shut down these last couple of weeks. We also got Ragnow on IR. Penei Sewell is now questionable too. So the offensive line could have major issues. To me, Tambo, I kind of just want to stay away from this whole situation on the Detroit side.
Yeah, only going to be using them in secondary stacks or run backs. But I think you mentioned Cephas is interesting to me. Also, Khalif Raymond. Guys look really good. Yeah. I think he's got opportunity. And again, what I'll tell you is this. I think you brought up the key point. This is the funniest part. We joked about this last night as well. So Mixon is a conversation piece this week. And it wasn't Mixon. What was the game last night? Who was out? Carson. Carson. And the line moves for Chris Carson. Who gives it, who cares? The line moves, but 3 O-line guys will go down for a team and the line won't move. It's like they don't even pay attention to it. I think that's more important. And I'm glad you brought that up, Holden, because I think that's a bigger thing here. They are going to be, I think it's no doubt they're going to be down. However you want to go about it on the Minnesota side, the 9-point favorite, I think is strong. I think they win pretty easily. I think they beat that spread and I think they're up handily. So those guys could get enough targets when they're down with Cephas or Raymond to get into the mix, actually. And if they just get a touchdown or something on top, that would be huge. But I actually think the Hawkinson and that O-line news leads more to the defense. I think a lot of people, and we never talk about defense on here, and it's not a position that I go crazy on because I space it out. It's high variance. You use different teams. You hope to have the one that hits the home run. But if you think back to last week, the Bills broke the slate. They were the only team, I think, over 8 points at a 1Z position like DST down below. This is a spot where I think a lot of people are going to play Arizona at 2,900 this week, going up against Trey Lance, et cetera, for good reason. But I think Minnesota makes a lot more sense as of right now with those O-line issues, Hawkinson out. Like, what is Goff going to do in this spot? That's what I want to know. So I really do like Minnesota here to have a good, and then you could set it up with whatever your preferred guy is between Dalvin Cook, if he plays, and Alexander Madison. So I do like the spot here for the defense.
All right, what do we got here, Bobby Gomes? If you like some of these Minnesota guys, who are we running it back with? And if Hawkinson's playing, can we run it back with him?
Yeah, I think Hawkinson's interesting as a run back if he's playing. He's kind of busted the last 2 weeks for people. I know 2 weeks ago he's definitely in play. Had high ownership, busted last week. People were trying to run him as a flop lag. He busted again. If he plays, I'm interested. If he doesn't play, I think DeAndre Swift is in play at 6,100. He should see more work in the passing game to pick up that extra usage left over by Hawkinson. So I don't mind him. Cephas is fine. Don't hate Cephas. This Minnesota defense has been absolutely atrocious. Someone hit on Raymond. Someone hit on Raymond last week in Discord, like on Saturday night, and we were giving him shit, but turned out to be a really good call. So in large field stuff, I think you get to Raymond as a run back. And you also don't have to run it back. I think a lot of people I think it's overutilized running it back in DFS. Like if you're in smaller field contests like the Wildcat, you don't necessarily need a run back. I think that we want to be correlated this week as much as possible, just because we have a lot of these stars off the slate. But I don't know. You don't always need a run back. You don't have to force the run back.
No, I like that, Bobby Gomes. Again, it makes sense because there's a correlation there. But if everybody's doing it, then we got to find another way to make up the points, right? So that's what we'll do. Here's one that pisses two guys that I have props on this week. One that I've landed on my own was Devontae Parker, and then freaking Chase Edmonds. Man, Mangone. It's a great call, Mangone, and it's on the bet side. So I'm not going to give away these free picks, but it's on the bet. I don't know if the Parker one was, but I got him over 51.5 yards. Does have a shoulder issue, but now it's a hamstring that popped up. I hate these lower body injuries on these wide receivers. No Will Fuller, though. Devontae Parker, to me, was set up for a really big game. Still might have a big game, but the hamstring injury, Bobby Gomes, does this get you off of him? And if it does, is it Jalen Waddle, Albert Wilson, or a complete fade?
Yeah, so I wasn't really on these Miami receivers too much. I think Jalen Waddle would be the guy that I'd consider the most. Devontae Parker, yeah, if he has a hamstring, I'd prefer Waddle, but these Dolphins are just a train wreck. So I get that the Bucs funnel to the pass. You only get with an 18.5 team total, I'd only be kind of focused around one player, and I think that would be Waddle for me.
Waddle. How about you, Tambo? Anything on the Miami side going up against the Bucs?
Yeah, I really like one that neither of you brought up, actually, and it's Gesicki. At the tight end position. I think he's the spot that you can get to here. Yeah. And what I like is that it actually makes this stack even easier. Talking about run backs, and if you're going the Brady side of things, if Fournette's going to be extremely popular, or even using Fournette in your Brady stacks, there's a possibility for that. If the next piece of news we could get to is Gio Bernard, then maybe it ends up being that Fournette is the guy. And instead of just worrying about the fact that he's chalk at running back, look to be different in the way that you utilize him, using a guy like Brady, Fournette, and then going with Evans or Godwin, or pick your guy, Brown, whatever you choose to do. They're cheap enough, and then run it back with a guy like Gesicki here. I think he makes a lot of sense. Waddle, obviously, in that same spot. But this goes to the previous point that Bobby Gomes made. To me, even more of a spot where you don't necessarily need to run it back is in Brady stacks. They literally could just stomp them 35-0 or something crazy like that. And then you could go all the way in on Tampa Bay and just not even worry about them, Miami on the other side.
Fascinating stuff there. I was just reading where the Patriots are going to be without 4 offensive linemen this week, but they're lucky because they're taking on who? The
Houston Texans.
Oh, yeah. So they got a little bit lucky there. Although, what if the Texans actually cover? That would be a little bit sad.
The Texans are atrocious.
Yeah, can we just fade that whole game, right? Just stay away from it no matter what.
Damian Harris, flop leg.
Yeah, Damian Harris flop lag 99.5 point total. I don't mind Harris.
And don't forget, I've been talking about this all season, and I'm going to stick with it. It worked last week. It's worked, I think 3 out of the 4 weeks it's already worked. But paying up for defense, and now DraftKings finally caught on and priced New England all the way up to 4,900. But when you're talking about why is the news dump this week so important? Because there's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of value being created. And I've talked about this plenty in the past, and I'll continue to talk about it. If paying up this week, I am paying all the way up to New England here. I think it's just the same spot. There's the opportunity. You could put it with Damian Harris if you wanted to. Ramondre Stevenson, healthy scratch last week. Preseason's not everything. We've seen this in the past. Yes, he looked good in preseason. Doesn't mean he's ready for the bigs or what you want to put him out with. And maybe they give him just one more chance for Damian Harris. So when everyone's on Damian Williams this week due to the Montgomery injury, maybe it's Damian Harris week, or maybe both. Maybe it's Damian week. I don't know. But I think Patriots D makes a lot of sense in this game, even with the price increase.
Do we want to bother with Damian Harris, though, without 4 starting offensive linemen?
You don't need to. No, it's more of a large field tournament play. I'm just saying, I think one of the things is that people don't look at enough is, not the running back DST correlation, because I don't even think you need that all the time. I don't recommend it. But what I'm saying is if you believe that the D is going to be in your lineup and put them in that position and do enough to ceiling out at 4,900 as a defense, I do think that leads to goal line, short work, et cetera, for a guy like Damian Harris, where that would be the way to make him work. So you could even set up a rule where you only use him if you're playing the New England Patriots defense, for example.
I tell JSU all the time on the Up to Lock show, there are some defenses you pay up for, you're getting an RB2 at 4.9K. The Bills have been that team this year. You said 3 out of 4. I think 2 times I've had the Bills. They have put up sometimes RB1. So I think that's definitely a route to go if you want to get different.
And the chat too, Holden, is bringing it up. You mentioned it too. So just to click in here for a second, but the 4 O-line guys that are out, like if you don't believe this and that's not the script you want to play, it's okay. You've got JJ Taylor and you've got Brandon Bolden. If you think they're the guys, but they're pass catching guys, they're filling in for James White and very little. Just so you know, I used this stat last night and I'll use it again. I thought it was funny, but Damian Harris had as many rush attempts combined as 4 other guys. But the problem was those 4 other guys only had 1 apiece and he only got 4 for -4 yards. So I understand why people are nervous about it. I'm not saying to go all in on this. My point was, if you are going to pay up for the D, don't be afraid to put Harris in, because that could be, maybe they don't get a pick 6, but they get the pick right close to the end zone. And then he bangs one in, and then it flips the game around and they decide to use him. Bolden and Taylor are utilized from the pass catching perspective. Why do they necessarily, what are they going to be? All these 3rd downs against Houston where they need to bring in JJ Taylor or Bolden to get there? They should smash Houston. It could be a shutout. That's my point. I think that's the case. Yeah. Keep an eye on the news. If Stevenson is in, then I would have a harder time with it for sure. But the O-line doesn't necessarily scare me on a team like the Patriots with the matchup that we've lucked into to what they have here with the Texans.
Yeah, I just don't think I need to go there this week. There's a lot of different options. Hey, just want to let everybody know our Sunday morning programming is you wake up at 8:45. We got Off the Chalk. Tambo, AP, JT, free show. The flagship show, free show, is the Sunday Morning Wood, right around 9:55, 10 o'clock. It's going to be Tony, Hoop, and me, and then Sunday Final Countdown.
That's funny you had to think about that.
What's that, Bobby?
It's funny you had to think about that being the newest.
Well, I looked at the schedule. It said JSU, Hoop, and Tony, and I was like, nah, you didn't fix that one, so don't worry about it. It tricked me. And then Sunday Final Countdown up to lock is going to be me and JSU, and we got Dunkel stopping by from the bet side. So he gives his best bets, and he has been on fire, folks. Oh my God, now it's JJ's turn to just carry it. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Don't forget that Millie show too, Saturday night. We've been giving out winners on that Millie show.
Oh, he's giving out. And then last night he had the under in the Rams Seahawks. That just smashed. JJ's on fire. He joins the show. That's our premium show though. And that's JSU on that show. Take me up to lock. He gives all of his thoughts. We answer all your questions. And like this, I just get the news out to you. Pump the news out. Take your questions. It's a great show. So, and then after that, Keg does the live betting show. And again, I just can't say enough good things about the guys that we work here. It's just spectacular. Okay, like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's get going back to the news here. Bobby Gomes. Two old guys. Gronk is out. Not worried about it, right? Julio's out. So how do we deal with the Bucs tight end situation? Is there a Cam Brate sighting? And then Julio's out. Do you trust AJ Brown coming back on a hamstring, I think, right? A little gimpy hamstring.
Yeah, I actually think these two pieces of news are extremely important. Well, the news around this team more. I don't mind Cameron Brate at all, and think AJ Brown's good tournament leverage off of Derrick Henry coming back this week at 6,500. Yeah, that would be like the surface level. I think Gio playing is very important because I think Fournette's getting that Gio news. Fournette's going to be a guy who's really popular. And yeah, talking about Henry, AJ Brown news is very important because of the construction. That would pretty much be where I'm at with those two plays.
Tambo, what are you doing with Julio Jones out? Do you want to take a piece of this Tennessee offense down there in Jacksonville and then maybe talk about Gronk and the fallout there?
I'll talk about Tennessee first. I think obviously Henry's going to be very popular this week, probably for good reason, but I could see a scenario here, and I'm kind of leaning this way. We're getting close to the end of the week. It is Friday here now. So I'm kind of leaning to the spot where they just stack the box and make somebody else beat them. And AJ Brown is a game breaker, I should say, what I was trying to say. Anyway, he's a guy I could use there. I like playing him as a little bit of leverage. I think if you wanted to go cheap and just get at a onesie position I always talk about, like tight end, you could play a little Ferkser in there if you wanted to. I think that Ferkser and Brown are kind of the guys I'm utilizing to get off of some Henry shares. I'm just not that big on it. And, we wait for Henry. It's still early in the season. He's looked good so far. He's got a couple more targets, had a couple big games, but The winter tires aren't on yet, as they say out there. So I'm still willing to think here that maybe they stack the box up against him and we can get there a different way. There's plenty of nice little secondary stacks when you go with A.J. Brown. You can use them across from Laviska Shenault. You can use them across from Marvin Jones. You can use them across from a few different guys. Even Robinson on the other side of that game, I think, is an interesting play. When most are on Henry, you use the opposite running back. I really do like this game for secondary stacks much more than just plug in Henry and roll him. In cash, I know that's what people are doing. He'll be 60, 70% owned, but just to give an example here, that's how I'm going to go about it.
Okay, I like it. Let's keep moving on to our next big story. And here's the other prop, Chase Edmonds, man. Love this catch prop. And now he's got a shoulder issue. And he was actually hurt last week. He hurt it in the second half, but he's got a shoulder and he's a game time decision. And I actually like the little Chase Edmonds this week. So if he's out, we can't trust James Conner, can we? We can't do that. Can you go there, Tambo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
you can definitely go there. I think the main thing for him is just he's already scored touchdowns, multi-touchdown game, all kinds of stuff going on there. And if you think about it, the more interesting thing, we didn't talk about this because it doesn't necessarily pertain to the news perspective, but the slate, it does. And we try and take the news and correlate it with how we're going about things in daily fantasy. There's no quarterbacks on this slate. There's 24 of them, but I'm saying when you think about, you've got Allen and Mahomes on Sunday night, Lamar on Monday. We just had Stafford and Russ Wilson who went down. You've got all these guys off the board. We're down to just who? Kyler at 8K. And I think people are going to go there. It makes sense. There's enough value to play him. He obviously has upside. He's literally the MVP favorite right now from what I can tell. JSU victory lapping everywhere. I got that bet with him. I'm in on that bet. I think that's good.
I think I was the one who touted that one the first. Kyler MVP on the best ball show with JSU. Yeah, I don't know. Forget. We were on a best ball show.
You don't even remember the bet?
Man, but
Kyler MVP, 15-1.
Okay.
But I think that's just a spot where you can find some leverage. I wouldn't necessarily use him with Kyler Murray. I'm just saying in a spot where people will go to Kyler and look to stack that game with Trey Lance, etc. You could even go Trey Lance stacks and use Connors on the other side to do work if Edmonds is out. So I'm not going to say I'm shying away from it right now. And just to pocket quarterback Lamar in the chat says, what's he said here? He said, A.J. Brown been atrocious all year. All year. Those 3 games he played in, he's been horrible. And now we come into a spot where there's no Julio Jones. Says, use him and find out. I'm not all in on this guy. I'm just using it as an example to say how you can go about it and get different. One of the biggest keys and why it's always talked about, it's not who you play or what you play or how you play them. It's just how you go about it in general, is if everyone's going to be on Henry and then all of a sudden A.J. Brown gets 2 touchdowns, that's how you get leverage in these tournaments. That's how you go on to potentially win them. And that's what I'm saying, why I have some interest there. It's not someone I'm heavy on. I just think there's opportunity and the price isn't that bad either.
All right, Tambo, let's go to the Giants. No Darius Slayton, no Sterling Shepard again. So Kenny Golladay is probably going to be popular going up against Dallas. If you're running with Dallas this week, Kadarius Toney, John Ross. I mean, these are lottery tickets to me. Do we want anything to do with the Giants passing game now that Slayton and Shepard are out again?
Toney, maybe. He's looked all right. I think you could go there. The Giants aren't as exciting when they have those injuries, but this game is definitely going to be talked about. We're going to be hearing about Daniel Jones. We're going to be hearing about Dak Prescott. We've got the other side. It looks like Cooper's trying to give it a go with that rib. You've got Lamb, who people like to play. Schultz has been on fire. So I think all these guys are going to get talked about enough. I don't think they'll get enough ownership as much as if we had seen guys like Slayton or Shepard in. The other thing you got to remember too, again, this can go either way. Just last night on Thursday Night Football, we watched and talked about Metcalf versus Ramsey. How could you ever play Metcalf with the Ramsey matchup? Well, that's how. Go look at the box score and find out how. That's the same situation here, I think, with Golladay, right? You've seen what Trayvon Diggs has done this season already. I believe he's up to 5 interceptions now. Maybe it was 2 last game. He is a tough matchup, no doubt. And it's going to be tough to go up against him. I'm not saying to play Golladay. I'm just saying it as an example, you can still get away with it. And I don't trust all the other guys, Caden Smith and Evan Ingram. Kadarius Toney's the only guy I kind of have a little interest in based on price, but I wouldn't be surprised if nobody plays Golladay and then he goes out to have a decent game just based on volume alone. And when you're looking at a game like that, this goes back to, and I'm rambling a little bit, but this goes back to a couple weeks ago with Dallas and the Chargers game when everyone pronounced this game the game of the slate. Like, if everything goes right in the morning with your contrarian plays, pivot your whole world to this game because it's going to break the slate. And there was like 4 other games in the afternoon with 55-point totals. This is quite the opposite. We don't have that this week. This game is going to be popular for good reason based on what we expect to see with the back and forth, the pace, the total, the teams in general, and just how they play. So one way I think you could get different in this game is to take a chance on Kenny Golladay and just think back to just last night where these can't play matchups all of a sudden become guys that smash the slate and crush it in. So I do have a little bit of interest here in this spot based on the game environment.
I actually thought that Golladay would have a little bit of ownership. So Tambo, you're saying no, and that's the one guy I like from there. Hey, Bobby, what do you want to do with the Giants this week? And then both of you need to address the Saquon situation. So get into the wide receivers, Bobby, and then I'll reset. I want to get your thoughts on Saquon.
Yeah, I think all the Giants pass catchers get a bump. It's tough for me to play Evan Ingram, but definitely Kadarius Toney, John Ross, Golladay, and Saquon as a pass catcher, I think can all be utilized. In terms of Saquon, like hopefully it looks like he's back. Like he had that big game-winning touchdown last week. I don't mind Saquon. I think he's definitely in play. He's definitely cheaper than what you're paying for Derrick Henry. He's cheaper than what you're paying for Dalvin Cook. Like I don't mind Saquon at all. I think he's a good play, a really good play.
He's getting so much work in the passing game too.
Yeah.
13 targets, 11 catches over the last 2 weeks. Here's his touches too. 22 and 18 over the last 2 weeks. 21 DK points, almost 30 DK points. Let's go back to you on this here, Tambo. Saquon Barkley, can you give me a little scouting report on him this week?
Yeah, not someone that I was thinking about here, really, to be honest. I know last week he had a big game, and I think he'll be somewhat popular in this game based on the fact, like I said, the environment that we talked about. So I don't know. You got to hope that he gets those passes and does what he did with them last week. We're looking again, goes back to my joke earlier about the all year thing. Well, we've only seen him a couple spots and he had one good game last week, but I like I said, I'll take my chances on the guys I mentioned. I forgot actually too. Bobby Gomes just reminded me about a one John Ross that we had to watch last week. Maybe that's the thing that comes back around again instead of a guy like Tony. But like I said, I really am thinking about Golladay a little bit just to mix and match. And to be honest, with this game being probably most popular, I'll likely be a little less on this game and likely just use it with secondary stacks. I'm not going away from it. Like I said, the slate it doesn't dictate me to be able to say, okay, I can just completely leave this alone. I just think these teams are the type that will go back and forth with it. But is it going to be the must-have game of the slate, shootout of the century that we need to have this thing? I don't know. So I'd rather just get pieces from it. And that's where even if you want to play your Barkley, play him across from a guy like Schultz or something like that, where you're just being a little bit different with it and not going with the quarterbacks or something like that. I think that's how I would go about using him this week.
Or CD.
All right. So
yeah, or CD.
All right, let's move on to the Bengals. So Joe Mixon's going to try and practice tomorrow. He's got the ankle. And if he can't go, well, let's just say he does go. Do you want any Mixon anyways, going up against the Packers?
I think he's in play. Like Mixon's always in play with the workload he's got. I think week 2 or week 3 got 100% of the attempts. Like P. Ryan at his price, like he's someone that if Mixon sits and the type of usage you could see, you have to kind of consider playing him. I don't know if I would, but he's definitely in consideration if he's going to see 60 to 80% of the snaps. If we've had any coach speak on that, I have no idea. I'm not looking to play Samaje Perine. Tyler Boyd is someone I think who's definitely in play in this situation. Like if you take out Mixon out of the path, and obviously Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is back. Burrow, I think Burrow stacks are more in play. Obviously, people are going to try to run back Adams. So all those Cincinnati Bengals are going to be very popular. Well, not very popular, but definitely targets for people in tournaments.
Tambo, Mixon, if he plays, do you have any interest?
No, not much interested in any of these guys. Definitely not interested in P. Ryan. I would play Chris Evans over P. Ryan, to be honest, because they should be down. And then I think that's the guy that could get it. But I just don't see it. And again, like I said, we don't have these 2 years ago prices where they're 3,000. You have to actually make a decision. It's 4,000. So if you look at it from a floor perspective, price wise, you could say, well, he's the cheapest you can get at that position. But to me, it doesn't excite me. And I just think there's other ways to go about it. I certainly like all the other guys they've got. Think about it. Boyd, Chase, Higgins is good to go. They announced it today. He's going to play. You've got Uzoma, he's fourth on the list, but just to give it, they didn't bump his price. He went to 3,000. He just did work for Burrow. If you went back and watched, there's an incredible little 4-minute video the NFL posted out there this week about Burrow grinding it back from 14-0 and just made me like him even more. And as a Ravens fan in the AFC North, longtime Ravens fan, where I have to almost cheer for the guy, but not cheering for them. I'm just cheering for the guy. I like Joey B. I like his attitude. I like his style, and to see him grind back. And then the best part of that video is at the very end, he goes up to Trevor Lawrence at his long lion locks and says, "Don't worry, bro. It gets better." Like he's some polished veteran. He basically tells T-Law that it's going to get better for him. Like he's been here. Like, dude, you played 8 games last year, went out with an injury to your leg and came back and won some games. And now you're telling him like you're Tom Brady, letting guys know. I love it. Personally, I thought it was great after you just came back and kicked his ass. So I got love for Joey B, but it's more with his receivers than his running backs this week.
Joey franchise. T. Higgins back though. So how does that?
Thank God for my best ball teams.
What?
Thank God for my best ball team.
I don't give a fuck about your best ball team, Bobby Gomes. I want to know what's going on in week 5, buddy. What am I doing with? Is it Chase, Higgins, Boyd? Is there one guy we're leaving out? What are we doing there?
Jair Alexander's out. So I think like Tammo said, all these guys are in play. Higgins probably be my favorite. Then I go Chase and Boyd. That could be a bad take, but it's kind of how I'm leaning as of right now.
Okay. There's only a couple more news stories. So hit the like button. That would be nice. If you're watching this on tape, hit the like button. Subscribe to the Run Pure Sports channel here on YouTube. It's that little red thing in the bottom right-hand corner. All right, this is all Broncos to finish it up. Bridgewater is going to play in all likelihood. Melvin Gordon's questionable, and Cortland Sutton is questionable. This is a total of 39.5 now, Bobby. I want nothing to do with this game unless it is the Broncos defense. So tell me, is there anything interesting from this game to you? Is Najee Harris in play? Anyone? Deontay Johnson?
Not much. I think if Gordon sits, like Williams is definitely in play. JSU's boy, that running back, I forget his first. Javonte, yeah. So I can't. I don't know if you saw it last
week though. He carried dudes on his back for about 20 yards. He's
good.
Beast.
He's very.
He looked good, man. Yeah.
Melvin Gordon looks good too, though. I know everybody thinks he's a plotter. He's not. He's freaking fast, and he's been very good this year.
Oh, I hate Melvin Gordon.
I know you do. Everybody does.
Noah Fant would be another guy that I think gets a bump versus Steelers team if all those guys are out or whatever the situation is
going on with Noah Fant. I'll let you know.
Is Noah Fant hurt?
No, but he's always in play too, isn't he? It's like Noah Fant.
Yeah, I don't mind some Fant if a guy like Sutton sits.
Hey, why don't you just talk about that game, Tambo? So we got Cortland Sutton with an ankle injury. Maybe that's why I was thinking about Fant getting bumped up with Sutton down. It's kind of like Tim Patrick, Sutton, and dump it off to a running back.
Yeah, I could see Tim Patrick. We got Mr. Patrick Rice in the YouTube chat right now. Maybe that's a sign.
Is that
Tim
him?
Patrick week? But I don't know. Fant is always capable. That's the thing. He's strong, big dude, man. Like last week looked good. It's just carrying over off of 1 week. It is really ugly, a really ugly game in general. James Washington out on the Pittsburgh side makes it somewhat set up for what's going on over there. But now they've got everyone back in the mix because he's not a guy that usually would be considered. They had Deontay out, then they had Claypool out. Now it looks like they're full strength. So I don't know. I guess if you wanted to run secondary stacks here, you could go with Deontay Johnson, who's just a target monster, run it the other side with Fant and do it that way, or Patrick.
Yeah.
But it's not something I'm going to be in love with. It's a low total. I don't think it's going to break the slate or something that you're going to need to have. That's just the only way I could see myself utilizing this game.
Okay. Terrific. Guys and ladies watching, want to remind you once again to hit the like button and then the code to sign up on a monthly plan, RPS Heater 25, RPS Heater 25, 25% off your first installment of a monthly plan. And NBA starting up October 18th, if I'm correct. We got that. We got NFL. We just did a baseball show today. So those of you that are grinding a little playoff baseball, you can do that too. RPS Heater 25. Bobby, Tambo, always good to see you boys. I really enjoyed doing this show. And I think it's really helpful, not just for everybody that's watching, for me too. I love going through the news. I love sifting through the fallout, and it's going to give you an advantage. So hit the like button on the way out. Helmet Head, get us out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody.